David, have you got an update on Maxwell Cornet? Has he got a chance of featuring this weekend?
No, he won't. Maxwell isn't available for the game. He's got. We think he's got a small calf strain, but as I said the other day, I don't think it's as bad as maybe we first feared. But so it's still going to keep him out for certainly for a few days, and hopefully he'll be back next week. But we'll need to see how he is.
And no other concerns picked up last night?
Well, we've got a few knocks and niggles like everybody else has. You know, when you're the morning after a game on a Thursday and you're getting asked the questions on a Friday, it's very difficult not to say that you've knocks and niggles. But hopefully we'll be okay for the time we get round to the game on Sunday.
Just how important was last night's victory?
I think it's really important because we want to do well in the group. We want to try and win the group if we can. At least we want to try and qualify and make sure we've got European football after Christmas time again. And as well as that, I think we're trying to build a little bit of momentum, trying to get some victories under our belt. And last night's was a good result for us.
And would early qualification for the knockout stage give you a chance to give the likes of Declan Rice a couple of nights off, perhaps?
Well, he had a night off last night, so we don't use him in all the games. But I think the point is Declan played 2 games for England last week, played a Premier League game as well. So we're trying to look after him for West Ham. We're trying to get him in the right condition for us as much as we possibly can. And there was an opportunity last night for me to leave him on the bench.
Another goal for Gianluca last night. Just how do you feel about the way he's progressing?
I think he's coming on very well. A 23-year-old young Italian striker, first time in the Premier League. I think he's coming along really well. His goals give you confidence. The centre forwards will tell you that. I think his form's getting better all round. I think his fitness is something which he knows he's got more to come and to do more. So I think it's always good when there's room for improvement and progress to be made. But I have to say he's doing a good job at the moment.
Against Wolves, the likes of Antonio, Fornals and Kufau started on the bench. What impact have the new signings had on some of those established players?
Well, I think it showed that we've got probably a stronger group of players. But as I've said many times, getting them all used to how we play and what we do and getting them really integrated takes time as well. But I feel that we're getting much closer to that now. There's a great spirit amongst the players inside the training ground. So we want to build on that. We want them to play well, get used to each other, and they're doing a lot better at the moment.
And one of those new players is Flynn Downs, impressed last night. Will more performances like that give him the opportunity to come into contention for the Premier League?
Yeah, I've had quite a few players from the Championship over my years in management. I can think of some really good ones who hardly played for 6 months. I think of Joelyn Lescott, maybe even Leighton Baines. People are signed early on. People take time sometimes to come through, but all went on to be England internationals. So sometimes you have to be patient and wait on it. But Flynn played well last night, and he's certainly beginning to improve.
Alexander Mitrovic is in doubt for Sunday's game. How much does the challenge differ if he's not in that starting 11? Because there's no real like-for-like replacement, I guess.
Well, I can't really talk about someone who's a doubt or who's not. If you're talking about a player who's playing, then I can talk and say, hey, he's done a great job at Fulham and he scored a lot of goals and he's a very good player, but I can't really answer anything regarding if he's a doubt.
And finally, just a word on Marco Silva. He's re-established himself since leaving Everton a couple of years ago.
I think he's done a really good job, and I think he's always been a good manager, and sometimes managers just need to be at the right place at the right time, the right club. I think to get Fulham out of the Championship back into the Premier League, they're doing a lot of good things. Fulham building a new part of the stadium and different things. So, yeah, Marco Silva's a very good manager.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
James Ellis from KLP.
Hi there.
A good win for your side last night. You spoke afterwards about the strength in depth and the players you had available to bring on from the bench. How big a factor do you feel that's going to be for you heading forward into this season?
Well, I hope it's a big help for us. I mean, last night was probably the biggest number of changes we've made in Europe probably in the last year or two. But it's also partly because, apart from maybe the Dino Zagreb game at home where we had already qualified in the group, we've probably not made as many changes in the team. But I think we're beginning to get a group of players. I've got more players fit. Yes, I'm without Agard and we didn't have Maxi Corney last night, but we're beginning to get a lot of the players in the squad back around it. I've got competition for places, and I always wanted to be able to make sure that we had a team that we could change on the Thursday night. The Thursday-Sunday changes things dramatically. I was talking today a little bit about, you don't see as many changes in your team if you're in the Champions League on a Tuesday and a Wednesday to playing on a Saturday, for example. But the Thursday-Sunday football has got a different effect completely on what it does to your squad. So I think you do need to have enough players in your squad to deal with it and give them opportunities to play.
Talk about those changes. You made 9 changes last night, healthy competition, as you say. Have you kind of got any welcome headaches then ahead of the Fulham game on Sunday?
You always have headaches in this job, that's for sure. So, you always get someone who's got a knock or a niggle or a cold or something. So you have to be ready for that, and we are. And we're no different to any other teams. We'll have some injuries like the other sides as well.
With back-to-back wins now, 2 clean sheets in a row. If you are to make it 3 wins in 8 days, how big a week could this be in terms of the momentum you're looking to build?
Mm-hmm. I think it's huge if we can continue to build that momentum. We want to try and get on a run. We want to try and get on a run of victories. Clean sheets are always a good point way to start. We want to build on everything we're doing at the moment, and I sense there is. I feel as if we're a little bit better at the moment. And as I said, we talked earlier, we're beginning to see performances from Flynn Downs. We're beginning to see Gianluca Scamacca coming in. We're beginning to get performances from a lot of the players we brought in, which we knew they could give us that. Our goalkeeper last night, Alphonse, was fantastic as well when called upon. So you need those things at times to go for you. In the early games in the season, we hit the bar or hit the post 6 times or so we've just not quite got things right, but it's just the signs that things are beginning to get a bit better.
Yeah, do you feel then on that you're beginning to see kind of a difference in individual performances now compared to the very early games of the season?
Yeah, I do. I think there is, and I think individually is really important, because I think you need to look after yourself first and make sure your performances are good. Then you try and make sure that your team performance is good if you can do. And I think there's some individuals started to show signs that they can improve. We've got others who need to step up. But the win against Wolves last week was really important for us. To win at Anderlecht away from home in Europe in any games is never easy. So we take them as real positives, and we're going to try and build on it.
As for building on it, Sunday's opponents, Fulham, started the season well on their return to the Premier League, but they come into this game on the back of a fairly hefty defeat to Newcastle last time out. Does that potentially make now a good time to be facing them?
I think you have to look into it. I think Fulham had a player sent off after 10 minutes or something in the game against Newcastle, so I think that makes that it would always be a difficult game against Newcastle, the form they're in at the moment. But I think Fulham have started the season really well, and I think if it wasn't for down to 10 men, I think it might have been a slightly different outcome.
You touched on it there, but as for your side, how happy are you with what you've been seeing from your players, particularly over the last week or so, and in particular your new signings that you brought in over the summer?
Well, I've said a couple of times that I'm just beginning to see really good signs from several of them. I've seen some good signs from some of them early on, but I think the whole team were trying to get ourselves back to a sort of more realistic, stable performance, and the performances I feel are just beginning to improve, and the individuals themselves are doing that as well.
On that then, do you feel like you're now rediscovering the form of 11s that made you such an impressive side last season?
I think we're closer to it. Do I think we're quite there yet? No. I think we've got a bit to go. I think there's improvement to get to that. But like anything else, when we first took over 2.5 years ago, we were third bottom of the league, and that team wasn't good enough to get us in the top 6 or 7. So this team we're moulding together at the moment might take a little bit of time to get to that position. But I think we've got lots of talented and quality players, which we hope will show their worth in the coming weeks and months. Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. Emma from BBC.
David, you've spoken in the past about constant pressure on the Premier League manager. Does it feel any less? Is there any less weight on your shoulders after the week you've had?
No, just the same. Just the same. You've got to win the next game in football, and I've always said, that I think winning is a philosophy, and you have to try and find a way of getting results somewhere in football. So we've had 2 really good wins this week. We've beaten Wolves at home. We've won away at Anderlecht. So there's shown a little bit of signs, and obviously we had with a good result before. Well, it was Everton, I think, before that one. It was international one, was it? Yeah,
Break.
yeah. So those couple of wins have actually been very good for us just now since we've come back from the break. We always hoped that the players would have sort of recharged and got themselves focused again to go, and in the main they have. And I have to say, they're looking good at the moment in training. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing, and in some of the games maybe we should have scored more, and that's probably the next target to try and take a bit more of the chances we've been creating.
I know there's a lot of it's pleasing to see the new players doing well, but how pleased have you been with what Craig Dawson has done? He's played the last 2 games, 2 clean sheets.
Well, this is the thing. This is what Craig Dawson can do for us, and why he's been such a good player for us. And he gives us a bit of steel, a bit of leadership, organisation, experience. So we have missed him, and in the opening 3 games of the season we didn't have any centre halves. Never mind Craig Dawson. We didn't have anybody really who could play there. I think we had one. Maybe Kurt was the only one. So there's been reasons maybe why we didn't start the season quite as well. Certainly not having Nathan Agard, Craig Dawson available in those early games, and even Taylor wasn't in the building yet, I don't think, at that time. So there's actually been big changes, if you want to say that, since that point. But good signs that Nathan's sort of on the way and getting better. Obviously we've talked about Dawson, and Taylor I think's made a really good impact so far.
One of the players who's left you is Sadil. How keen was he to go? What was the kind of talk?
Well, we liked Tisa a lot. We'd have really liked Tisa to stay, because as you well know, at that time we were having difficulties with centre halves. We didn't have any centre halves. So look, we'd have rather had Issa stay rather than leave. We liked him a lot, but Issa's choice was that he wanted to go and play more, and he wanted to move. So we, in the end, we granted it, and that was the difficulty because we were really short of defenders around that period.
There is a suggestion that your October is going to be a bit easier. I know it includes Liverpool, Manchester United away, but the theory is you're playing Fulham, you're playing Southampton, you're playing Bournemouth. Maybe by the end of this month, you might be in a sort of happier position in the table. Do you agree with that?
Well, I agree with the last bit that I hope I'm happier. That's a bit, but I think all these games. If you tell me there's a Premier League team at the moment who you could turn up and walk over and think you're getting the points, I just do not see that anywhere. Not that I ever have seen it, but I've got to say, I think the Premier League at the moment is really unpredictable. I think it's very difficult. You look at the teams at the bottom of the league; they could all easily be in other positions. You see the form of Leicester City, how they won on Monday night. So I think it's very easy. Excuse me. It's very easy to make assumptions because you think it's not one of the big sides. But I think there's so many sides in the Premier League at the moment are doing a good job and making it very hard to play against.